Hello, my name is Jamie Selwood. I'm from Hiroshima University in Japan, and this is my contribution to the Mobile Learning SIG Symposium for the EuroCALL 2020 gathering. I'm going to be talking to you about podcast and podcasting, in particular how I have tried to use podcasts as a language learning device for my students, and also, crucially, how I've tried to integrate podcasting into the curriculum. I'm a huge proponent of podcasting, and I hope that over the next 8 minutes, and I've been told many times that it's a maximum of 8 minutes, that I will be able to give you some detail and analysis and feedback about how podcasting has worked. First of all, and I hope this is where the pause facility will come in handy for this video, if you could please go to this website and type in this code, and you've got a couple of choices. Please click the ones that are appropriate to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link at the end of this presentation where you can see the results on my homepage, probably a couple of days or so after the gathering has finished. Of course, if you don't want to do this, no worries. Always start with the obvious. Just to clarify, a podcast is essentially a digital audio program that is available to download via the internet, usually via the mobile internet. You've probably seen this symbol floating around. This is the podcast symbol. So, how many podcasts actually are there out there? Would you like to take a guess? Again, maybe the pause button to have a guess about how many. Okay, were you correct? There are currently around about 850,000 active podcasts with over 30 million podcast episodes. In the next slide, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my contribution to this growing number. There you can see it's called English News Weekly. It's a free English language learning podcast. Each week we take a different news story from around the world. We also record some travel edition podcasts when we were all able to travel to different places around the world. The QR code is here. If you would like to scan that QR code, that will take you to the homepage. It's also available on iTunes and Google Podcasts. And there's a free PDF script that accompanies the audio, which is approximately 16 minutes. I started in 2011, and there are currently 420 editions. If you're not that up to QR codes, no problem. Again, I'll put the link at the end of the podcast. So, how do I use podcasts in my classroom? Well, the basic plan, the first, very easy, is I just use it for homework assignments. Mostly my podcast, in truth, but with higher level students, I do give them the option to find podcast topics that they're interested in, and they will do that as an assignment, as an extra learning. Sometimes I will do checks and make sure that they've done some work. Sometimes I won't. It's very much depending on the class and the students. Okay, trying to be a bit more adventurous. This is where students will have a podcast for homework. Usually they'll be in small groups or pairs. They'll choose which podcast they want to do, and there'll be some kind of report that they will have to deliver. This could be very simply standing in front of a class or moving around groups. This could be a recorded audio or video that we would then share on a closed homepage. Again, it very much depends on the class and the level of students. And then the final one, the Over to You fun plan. I think my students may disagree with the fun part, but hey, it's my presentation. They create their own podcast. Very, very simple procedure. You need a smartphone. You need some students. You probably need some kind of document creation software, Word, if you're on Microsoft Pages, if you're on Mac, and that's pretty much it. How creative and how spangly and complicated you want to do it is really up to you and your level of students and what you want to get out of it. It's a really good idea to use an audio app. I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about a couple that I use. Just a small caveat at this point. I don't really use video apps for podcast. More of a privacy issue, really. My university in particular is quite strict on privacy. And, I think we're all aware that, and there are many, many studies that students do become somewhat more inhibited when their face is being shown. So I tend not to do that. But a video podcast, a vodcast, is certainly an option if you wish to go down that path. I also like to use interactive posters. I don't really have a lot of time, I'm afraid, to go into that in this presentation. But if you go to my homepage, there are some examples of interactive posters and how you can integrate podcasts into such format. And again, more than welcome for you to contact me, and I'm quite happy to go through it. To make a podcast, you really need these items. You need this is essentially, you need a smartphone or a tablet if that's your preference. I find smartphones much simpler, simply because all my students have smartphones. Whether you have an iOS or if you have an Android, it does have an impact, and I would highly recommend that you choose an audio recording app that, of course, is cross-platform. The one I use is Quick Voice. There is a paid version, but the free version is excellent. Very simple, available in multiple languages. This is GarageBand, an excellent audio recording, but it's only available on Apple. Well, happy students may be pushing it, but certainly compliant students and students who are willing to take part and do something that they haven't done before. Time, you are going to need a lot of time. Although, to be honest with you, once you like most things, once you've started it, once you've actually done a podcast creation course, it tends to become a little bit formulaic. Free Wi-Fi, definitely a must, and patience. All right, I'm just going to move on to the feedback over the years. So as you can see, I started doing research in this in 2011, and a very basic question, how many students or what percentage of my students had listened to a podcast before they'd started the course. The one caveat I made was I wanted them to make sure they'd subscribed to a podcast. So as you can see, we're still below 50%. The highest came in 2016 and 2017, and then the last 2 years it dropped. This year it's gone back up again. To me, I find this
I'm not sure I understand.
Fuck off, Siri. To me, this is as an opportunity and shows just how many students are just unaware of podcasting. Very simple guy. I asked them, this was mostly with my podcast, what skill did they improve the most? I don't think there's too much shock in that listening and reading would be the highest ones.